clap for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Which side are you on?
I don't mean to alarm anyone, but we're fucking back.
We're
dude.
so back! Oh.
It feels good
Oh
to
my
be back.
God.
Feels
Wow.
good. How are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel like a little horny. I feel like really excited.
Rejuvenated?
Yeah, I do. I feel like I got like a Kim Kardashian style like face procedure done.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel like I'm so back.
It's incredible levels of back.
Yeah. Like I've never been. So I
like I'm
don't
thinking
even
we're
actually
back.
have like my torso is just a round circle because that's how back we are.
So true. Backstreet, it's back.
It's back, boys.
It's fucking back. All right.
That's what they were actually singing about was us. They were
Yeah.
just predicting the future
when
of
we
us
would be
being
back.
back.
Of course. LMAO.
Oh man, listen. We took a little hiatus, but we're back. You guys don't have to worry.
Don't fret.
You don't
anymore.
have to be scared. You don't have to be sad. You don't have to be alone because your friends Taylor and Phoebe are here. Poppin' is in.
Oh yeah.
Having a sparkling water. It's like it's
Yeah,
the
that's-
old cozy, you know it, you love it. And like you're here and it's like you like at your grandma's house
Exactly.
or just a place that's like safe and comfortable and warm.
I like the idea that like when we left we were like beers and vapes and now we're sparkling water and Zin.
Oh, don't worry, kids.
Time
There's still beers and
takes its
vapes.
toll.
Yeah, we've changed.
We've changed. But yeah, dude. First episode back. We're fucking.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, we're the Remarks podcast.
Oh my God, yeah, we should probably
say
tell
that.
you.
For any new listeners.
This is Remarks. It's a podcast. It's a podcast that has existed, and it's a podcast that's existing again.
And it's continuing to.
Like, some crazy things have happened since we've been gone. This election cycle is going on. Trump hopefully is going to prison. Taylor got engaged.
Yeah, I did.
Boeing killed a man.
That
Just
whole
a
Boeing
few
shit is
of the
crazy.
exciting things that have happened since we've been gone.
Yeah, I mean, because I think one of the last episodes we did was talking about the nominees for the election.
Yeah, I think that was
talked
one of the
about
last
Nikki
ones.
Haley.
That's right. And now here we are.
Now here we are.
And guess what? It's probably going to be the same two guys that it was the last time.
Such a joy. We live in
great.
a good system. No notes. No
Yeah.
notes at all.
That's why we're back. We came back to say it's actually all going
Everything's so good. But
let's get
we
into
saw
it.
the movie The Civil War recently.
Yes. The A24 Alex Garland, I believe is his name. Yeah, Alex Garland Love Child. That was like about what if all of the things that we were afraid of happening in America happens
Actually
and we
happened,
do
yeah.
end up having a civil war. Not to be a movie review podcast, but what was your feelings, your thoughts?
I thought it was interesting because I remember I told you when we like first saw it that like I didn't really get the like whose side was what, you know?
Exactly.
And then I like was thinking about it and I was like, I think that's almost like part of the point of the movie. Is
That's
like,
kind of what I thought too.
Nobody really knows, like each individual group of like insurgents or whatever, people who are fighting are kind of just fighting for themselves, you know, like
Right.
there wasn't really like a central like this is what the cause is, other than I guess the president being like kind of a dictator.
Yeah, and I definitely think that was the point. I think it was kind of like, oh, this is what war is like. It's all very confusing and whatever. I thought it was really interesting. It was not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be like, look at the right side's doing this crazy thing and the left side's doing this crazy thing. But it was kind of just more about like the story of these war journalists.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm following them as they like traveled throughout the U.S., kind of documenting this conflict. And so it made us really want to talk about war journalism.
Yeah,
And
which is what we're gonna talk about, baby.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So in typical Remarks fash, I'm gonna do a little hist of conflict journalism.
Yeah.
So I guess
bringing it, like we said, just bringing it back. We're like bringing it back into our little warm embrace of like Taylor's gonna tell you some history,
soft bosom, you know,
suckling gently.
Yes, of course. All right, conflict journalism, baby. Like many other professions, it has its root in humanity's earliest beginnings. Humans have always told stories to entertain each other and teach life lessons. And what a more harrowing story to tell than the triumphant victory of soldiers in battle. Though it was primitive, the first tellings of battle and victories were etched in caves all around the world.
Truth. You
know, the Egyptian depiction of warriors or the storytelling of a great battle etched in the cave. You know, obviously.
Right.
Cave drawings are
classic
seen
things.
all over the world. You know.
And it is typically... Or them, like, hunting.
Yeah, like hunting.
But, like,
or people,
you know,
yeah.
a battle of sorts.
And I feel like they're usually, like, kind of mixed into some kind of, like, mythology that's in there. Like, you know, the sun god, like, graced this battle. And, like, so there's always that, too. But, yeah,
but it's always been there.
Yeah. Another ancient example of what could be considered conflict journalism with a little fictitious twist is Homer's Odyssey and Iliad.
Oh,
these works, of course, depicting the aftermath of the Trojan War, which, you know, obviously those aren't necessarily, again, real, but the war that happened was real.
Right.
And he kind of elaborated on what happened after it. And on the topic of fictitious war stories... One could even look to Dante's Inferno or Paradise Lost as depictions of spiritual warfare, as well as the Bible, as flawed as it might be in other areas, does seem to depict some elements of actual battles and victories won by nations.
Very true.
And armies, such as the Siege of Jerusalem, the Siege of Lachish, the Battle of Jericho, the Siege of Samaria, and the Siege of Gath, which seem to be backed up by archaeology as far as everybody can tell. So... Bible, kind of real in parts.
True, which, yeah.
Big asterisks.
Yeah, in parts.
In specific situations. Dude, we've been watching The Handmaid's Tale recently.
Oh my god.
What a fucking show that is.
Oh,
holy
believe
shit.
me, I know.
And it's funny because I feel like Eden and I will be like talking about it or whatever and like... I don't know, we were talking the other day and we were like, I get like the show is going obviously for like a feminist kind of angle on things, but I was like, there's no way that there wouldn't be like a racial genocide if this like actually happened.
Completely. Oh yeah, I mean if it wasn't like just that, it would be both.
Oh, it would definitely be
there
both.
Would be like for sure a racial aspect of that.
Because I feel like with fascism, it's never like just one thing.
It's not ever always... just one thing. They really love it all. They'll take it all. They're like, thing. We hate women. We hate people of color.
Yeah, like whatever the minority is that they've decided to hate, it's like that. And then also like any other marginalized group.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
Like the gays. The fucking homos, dude. Anyway, Henry Crabb Robinson was a reporter for the London Times who was sent to Altona, Germany to report back... Oh, man, I missed a part. Put a pin in that.
Pin.
War journalism was not always as boots on the ground as it is today. Julius Caesar, famous for his chain of pizza restaurants, wrote about the conquest of Gaul in 55 BC, which was several years after the battle had actually taken place. Even William Watts, one of the debated first conflict journalists, wrote about the 17th century Swedish king Gustavus Adolphus's campaign of the 30-Year War months later, and during the conflict he stayed in a safe distance away in London, far from any actual action. So like that day was you'd get like people writing about wars, but it was like very like hearsay. Like people would tell their like war stories, and then just like people who knew how to write would probably like transcribe
right. It was like
you know?
Kind of romantic, I think.
Yeah, also that. Yeah, it was very like, and you know, history is written by the victors, as they say. So like, they weren't going to have any kind of like bad things in there. But pull the pin out. Henry Crabb Robinson was a reporter for the London Times who was sent to Altona, Germany, to report back on Napoleon, famous for his hit 2004 movie. Who in,
The dynamite?
Yes.
Napoleon with his dynamite.
With his dynamite. Who in 1807 was in the midst of a military campaign. While France was taking over the world, our boy Robinson was mingling with the social elite at fancy cocktail parties and mostly just reporting back rumors to the London Times. He didn't really contribute anything to the actual conversation about the war itself, and he made no attempt to reach the actual battlefield. He reported on the Battle of Friedland 6 days after it happened, which again, I feel like is kind of, like people who could read and write back then were probably not going to be like right in the midst of battle.
Yeah.
They were going to be at their cocktail parties.
They were like, let's save this one.
You know what? Let's sit this one out. We'll catch the we'll catch the rerun.
I got a book to read. You wouldn't know anything about that.
Read much, dork?
Why don't you go fight a war?
Go fight your dumb little war. That's still kind of how it happens now, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Sadly
Unfortunately.
enough, yeah. Robinson was then sent to report on the Spanish Revolution, but yet again mainly stayed as far away from the conflict as possible. Charles Lewis Grynison? I don't know. Of the London Morning Post went to Spain 3 decades after Robinson and actually did see the conflict he was supposedly reporting on. During what was known as the Carlist Revolt, he accompanied the British Legion. The revolts were basically a group of Spaniards trying to overthrow the current rulers and claim the throne for themselves, and fought to maintain traditional Spanish values, such as Catholicism, against the woke liberals who wanted to have a democracy and a republic,
How dare.
How dare they?
Disgusting.
They want to have rights, dude. Grunison was on the ground at the Battle of Villar de los Naveros, and he even prevented the execution of prisoners by appealing to the Spanish commander, who was a fellow Freemason. He was arrested shortly after on suspicions of being a spy and was nearly executed. After this, he saw no further conflict. And honestly, I think that's kind of understandable when you almost get executed.
Yeah, you're like, I think I'm good now.
Although it's crazy, like, I feel like because a lot of conflict journalists I've read, like, they just go back.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Oh, it's wild. They just keep, going, even when it's like, there was one who I'll talk about her, but she like got shot at or something, and her camera saved her life, and then she was like, anyway, back to it.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I'm like, oh my god. Anyway, John Bell was the owner of a publication called the London Oracle, and is also the first like modern type of conflict journalist. He reported on the Duke of York's campaign in 1794. Here's a quote from him. As I shall for some time be in the very neighborhood of the contending armies, it is my intention to send you a regular and faithful diary of whatever passes worthy the attention of your readers. I shall write frequently in the field, or under the first hedge that affords me safe retreat, and therefore must be satisfied with facts, without ornament or exaggerated coloring, which on such occasions is too frequently adopted in the diurnal publications. Diurnal publications. Diurnal.
Sure.
Diurnal. He became the first celebrity war reporter, people tuning into his publication and following him around the different battles and happenings of the conflict. He gained fame on his travels, but not necessarily fortune. He ended up selling the London Oracle to pay off the debts he accrued during his travels covering the war. So.
Classic artist.
Yeah, starving artist.
Life. Yeah, that is really interesting, though, because I do feel like that is kind of the like rules of modern war journalism is like, here I am at the place that this is happening, reporting the facts with no like, powdery language and no like added... you're not beefing it up to make this crazy war story. It's just like, oh, this is what's happening right now.
Well, and I feel like that extends probably more modernly, too, to, like, you can't really interfere with what's happening,
Right.
Like, and I don't know, maybe this is a romanticized picture of it, but, like, I feel like at least the idea is, right, that you're supposed to just, like, let people die. Like, you're there to just document what's happening.
Exactly.
Which would be difficult, I imagine, to see.
Oh yeah,
Not be
I
able
mean,
to do anything about it.
I think a lot of these war correspondents have like horrible PTSD and everything.
Yeah, probably the same as like I know it's crazy.
Yeah,
being shot at and whatnot. Though there were no official reporters during the Revolutionary War with the title of war correspondent, Massachusetts Spy, a publication, had an editor by the name of Isaiah Thomas. Thomas was a member of the Sons of Liberty, which are known for throwing crazy tea parties. And he recounted and printed his own accounts of the clashes in Lexington, Massachusetts against the British occupying forces. Mm-hmm. That's how we know a lot of stuff about what the Sons of Liberty were up to when they were doing their thing.
Their little tea party
and
having a little sip.
The Boston Massacre and whatnot, which was like 2 people dying, I think.
Yeah.
But, propaganda, baby. War journalists were not always as beloved or accepted as they are today. In spring of 1854, a 33-year-old William Howard Russell arrived in Crimea to report on the Crimean War. And I'll tell you more about that after a break, or these ads. Spicy. So incredibly back.
Oh my god.
I would just like everybody to know.
More back than ever.
Like insane amounts of back.
Yeah.
And I just would like to let everybody know that I burnt so much trash and plastic on the break.
Oh, the amount, the sheer, that's all we've been doing. That's why we took the break, actually.
Yeah, I really had to.
We had to focus on our plastic burning career.
I had to really focus on killing the environment with
as much as
fumes.
possible. I don't think I ever we got too excited and we didn't even say our names.
I don't think so, but it's all right. At this point, I mean, look at the episode description. Yeah. I think it says Phoebe and Tayler.
Yeah, but this voice is Phoebe's voice.
Yes, and I am Taylor.
But you might know that already. And if you don't, then listen to a couple other episodes and you'll get caught up and you'll learn all about us. Yeah. And then come right back here.
And it'll be fun. It'll be cool.
It'll be quirky.
I think that you're so hot and cool.
It's true. It is actually very true.
Listening to podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how, if I ever meet someone and they're like, I love podcasts, I'm like, I love you.
You're like, actually, yeah, let's be fucking homies.
Yeah. That being said, though, do listen to our back catalog because I have been listening to get back into the spirit, and it's great. Not to toot it up, but I'll toot it up and I'll say it's great. And also get caught up and listen to our old episodes if you haven't.
Please, yeah, you should.
Because there's literal years of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's at least a year straight of us podcasting. I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's fucking continue. So
jump back in.
The War of 1812 saw one of the most famous recountings of a battle, and not even by a reporter. During the Battle of Fort McHenry, a Baltimore lawyer who you may have heard of by the name of Francis Scott Key wrote a little poem called The Defense of Fort McHenry, and later that poem would grow up and become the Star-Spangled Banner. Which that's got to be like the most covered song ever, right? Like
it has to be.
The amount of people who have like done a version of the Star-Spangled Banner.
That has to be. I bet that's real.
I feel like it's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll Google it.
Yeah, we'll Google it up on the next break.
Yeah.
But that has to be true.
Because it would make sense, right?
I do say my favorite version of that is definitely Fergie's.
Oh, yeah.
It's just iconic.
So iconic. Yeah, well, that was like Jimi Hendrix's thing during the fucking Woodstock. He played the Star-Spangled Banner as like a political thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the British officers he was following advised soldier... Oh, wait.
Francis Scott Key.
Oh, yeah. So there was the Star-Spangled Banner, and then what I had left off on, because I'm new at this, sorry.
We're putting some oil on our rust.
Yeah. Was our friend William Howard Russell, who was covering the Crimean War in 1845. The British officers he was following advised their soldiers to not talk to the, and I quote, Snoopy intruder, and would deny him access to join their camps. Junior officers would consistently cut down his tent and generally just cause him some distress.
Mean.
Yeah. Because of the lack of cooperation from the higher-ups, Russell was required to get information about battles from the actual ground soldiers themselves, like talking to the people who were fighting it, and report on their actual experiences fighting. This, of course, is a key pillar of war reporting now, but seemed to be less common back then. I feel like most of the information kind of came through generals and such. Russell would go on to report on the American Civil War and become a household name for his reporting.
Wow.
He also went on to report on a number of other European conflicts. The American Civil War now saw a boom in war reporters. Some 500-plus journalists were trying to get themselves a cut of that sweet emancipation pie from the Union Army. One story recounts General William Tecumseh Sherman. I don't know what that middle name is,
Names
but
are hard.
General William Sherman, who had a feud with war reporters, the war reporters that he would encounter. The reporters called him incompetent when the general requested 60,000 additional soldiers to safeguard Kentucky, which might be the most anyone has ever cared about Kentucky.
Oh, no. Other than the fried chicken, you know.
That came from here.
Shit.
I guess the fucking recipe was from Kentucky, but the first one was here, the first KFC.
Oh, my God.
Like,
That's
historically,
true.
Yeah.
Damn. Famously.
Yeah, Utah's claim to fame, dude. Fried chicken.
Fried chicken, fry sauce.
Oh, yeah. And,
Frying. Making a little French fry with your legs when you ski. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah. He was the General Sherman was removed from his position and nearly discharged from the Union Army because of this. General Sherman called the journalists, and I quote again, a dirty set of scribblers who have the impudence of Satan.
Wow.
Which is some fucking
strong
bars,
words,
dude.
man.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He was ready to fucking throw with these journalists.
Seriously.
World War I was more of the same when it came to war reporters, but I did want to focus on the rise of women war reporters during the time.
Hey.
To name a few, which maybe this is more than a few, but their names are important. Sofia Casanova from neutral Spain, covered the Eastern Front for the Spanish paper. The American journalist Nellie Bly, Peggy Hull.
Nellie Bly.
Oh, yeah? Are you
she's-
going to talk about her?
No, I just know her name.
Oh,
yeah.
sweet. Yeah, she covered the World War I. Peggy Hull, Louise Bryant, Bessie Beatty, Retta Child Dorr, and Helena Johns Kirtland, among others, reported from Russia and the Western Front. On the Allied side, Louise Mack from Australia reported on the German invasion of Belgium for British papers, while in Italy, Flavia Steno covered the Italian front for Tu Secolo XIX. I don't know if that's the name of the publication. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to say it. But on the side of the Central Powers, Thea von Puttkamer was a German war correspondent based in Constantinople. And Margaret Vesey, Maria Magda Rumbold, and Alice Schalek were accredited as official war correspondents to the Austro-Hungarian War Press Office.
Damn.
So, yeah, kind of popping
We love
off.
to see it.
Yeah. Women's stories from the war came in a variety of forms. It was much less dedicated to like war reporting from the front line, obviously, although some were allowed to report that way and kind of go and see the action. But more of them were like travelogues, photography, autobiographies, and nurses also had a huge part in it, writing about their experiences and what they saw attending to the wounded close to the front lines. So it kind of came from a variety of sources. Again, as like we said, the ones that I listed were more like ones that were official ones, but there was like a ton of like accounts that were happening.
Yeah, well, and I feel like they just give a different perspective of the conflict itself, of like, especially like the nurses. It's like hey, this is what it looks like when hundreds and hundreds of people are wounded or injured or dying.
Yeah, machine guns were fucking new, so people were like, this is
People were
insane.
like, holy shit, I'm going to shoot everyone as much as I can.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't even imagine being a nurse and like...
Oh my god.
I mean,
oh my god.
Muskets to like machine guns.
Yeah.
Like, fucking crazy. So, to close it off, I have a few more stories. One of them is the story of a man named Joe Morton. Joe was a reporter for the Associated Press, born in the Midwest, and seems to have had a drive for adventure. In 1942, there was a little conflict going on. May have heard of it. World War II.
Never heard of it. Unfamiliar.
Yeah, no, what is that? I've only read history up to like 1928, so... Yeah, no, things seem to be fine. Morton joined American bombers in West Africa to assault fascist-controlled Rome. He reported on the happenings of World War II for 2 years, and on October 7th, 1944, he flew with an OSS unit delivering weaponry deep into Nazi territory. The mission did not go as planned, and for 6 weeks he roamed around the Tatra Mountains, avoiding capture by the Nazis, though he was eventually caught. January 24th, 1945, Morton and other Allied soldiers were executed by the Nazi Party, making him the only known casualty of an American reporter by the Nazis.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I was going to get into all of the reportings on the Spanish Civil War, because everyone knows that's my favorite war.
George Orwell.
Yeah, but I believe that we covered that in a previous episode when we were talking about the Spanish Civil War.
We did.
I don't remember what that was called, but I guess you'll have to listen to all of them now.
Oh, well.
But as a refresher, the authors who were present and reported on the Spanish Civil War include George Orwell, Ernest Hemingway, Emma Goldman, Ilya Ehrenberg, and, of course, many more. And
all the heavy hitters from the time.
And it's funny how many, like, fiction writers were there.
Yeah, and it's, like, fiction in the sense that you're like, is it fiction?
Yeah.
It's, like, really inspired fiction.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I mean, 1984, obviously.
Right.
And even Ernest Hemingway, like... But, yeah, I guess in the sense that, like, they were also... Like, they weren't, like, exclusively reporters. Like, they were authors, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
It is interesting.
That pretty much brings us to where Phoebe's going to take over with some little later on in the, what is that, the 20th century? Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're in the 21st currently.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so bad at that.
It's like a year ahead, I don't know why
I get confused.
I don't know either, but I guess because from like 0 to 100 was the first century.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense if I think about it for 2 seconds, but I don't want to.
I don't like thinking about it.
I don't like numbers. I only know words.
I'm too pretty for numbers.
Oh my God. Sorry. That was crazy.
LMG.
Everything's crazy right now. Okay. Well, should I take her away?
I think it's important that you do.
It's pertinent even.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure that everything's gonna be okay. Okay, here we go. Hey guys, we're here. We're back. We're doing it.
More vibes.
Yeah. So one of the first times in American history where Americans were able to actually have a clear picture of the horrors of war was with the Vietnam War. The advancement of technology and the affordability of televisions finally allowed most average American families to have a television in their home. So people were actually able to get more direct, quick
they weren't just having
news.
To read about it.
Exactly, like weeks later.
Yeah.
With radio technology and camera technology, American news stations were able to broadcast footage from the front lines of conflicts. No longer were Americans consuming propagandized highlight reels that were sent home during earlier wars, created to rally support, but instead they had access to the realities of what war truly was in a quicker way and with actual physical, like, here's a video of what's fucking happening. They saw people on both sides brutalized, tortured, starving, and longing for the pointless war to end. The luxury of war not happening on American soil is one we still relish in today. that had in the past allowed us to stay ignorant, comfortable, and complacent to believe whatever we were told by the people in power. Due to the work of war correspondents, real frontline footage was delivered to our television sets. And when Americans saw the truth of what was being funded and fought by our soldiers, the outcry began to pour out. The iconic protests at university campuses, the violence enacted by police, the music, the artwork, and the solidarity that came from fighting for peace. I'm going to tell the story of a few female Vietnam War correspondents. Ladies, let's go. Where my ladies at? But I first want to touch on the protests that are currently going on at our college campuses. I'm not going to get too into the weeds, but I just want us all to think about the connections that we can make to the protests of the 60s and 70s against the Vietnam War. And I want us to kind of think about the fact that all of us are war reporters now, with a phone in your hand, recording and sharing bombings, murders, and police brutalities live. I mean, even some people are literally live on the internet. Yeah. Exactly. I want us to see the bravery of those sharing footage from the front lines and the bravery of those suffering the consequences of protesting these horrors. And of course, the bravery and the sorrow of the people who are at home and just bystanders of all of this, having their homes destroyed, having their families murdered. I was talking to Taylor a little bit about it the other day, and it just is like researching Vietnam and thinking about these protests on these college campuses. It's like, wow, it's so the same. Like there was even particularly with Columbia. I mean, there is literally like you can look at the demands that were being asked for from the protests of the Vietnam Wars to the protests that are happening now for Palestine. And it's like almost the same things that we're asking for. It's crazy. And then fucking, I again, can't get too into the weeds about this, but Columbia is like so proud of their history of being this campus of change and everything. And then here they are. And they weren't even in the first place. They literally were arresting students who were protesting for the Vietnam War. And then now they're doing it again. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like just whenever it's like convenient for them to be like, oh, like
look how progressive we were.
Like, oh, we were there at the front lines trying to make change
on the right side of history.
Yeah, letting the fucking cops tear gas students.
Exactly.
So insane.
Anyway, so yeah, it's like it is just interesting also to think about how like war correspondents now are just people that literally are like part of the conflict and not soldiers, like civilians that are like recording the thing on their phone. Like that's our new war correspondent is just us. It's all of us.
How like accessible the internet is, like even in a war-torn country. I mean, that's how we have all the footage and images of, or a lot of them of fucking Gaza and like the shit that's going on is just people like documenting it and being like, look at what the fuck is happening.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. Beverly Deep Keever got her journalism degree from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, actually double majoring in journalism and political science because she was an overachiever. Girl, could not be me.
College, never heard of her.
Yeah, never heard of her. My sister is also she's a double master's actually, and I'm like, you're insane in a way that I respect, but could not be me. Beverly traveled to South Vietnam in 1962. She was one of 8 correspondents, and among them, the only woman. Quote, I went into journalism because I wanted to understand people and culture in other countries. At the time when Beverly had arrived in Vietnam, America's participation in the war was still being kept under wraps, but as reporters on the field, it was impossible to not see our country's growing involvement in the conflict. Beverly initially worked freelance, selling stories to the Associated Press through the country more freely, not just being tethered to one area, which was typically going to be Saigon. Basically, everybody was in Saigon at the time. And not tethering her to one perspective of reporting. Armed with her freelance status and portable typewriter, Beverly collected more nuanced stories, sharing the perspective of civilians, particularly women, about the effects of war, the communists, and the American presence in Vietnam. Her being a woman really worked for her. She could obviously get in pretty well with the women that lived there. They trusted her more than they would like the male reporters. And it was like unassuming, you know? So even when she was having interviews with like men or soldiers fighting, they're like, oh, it's just a girl. And so she was able to get, right, exactly. So she was able to get all of these different stories that other people couldn't.
Yeah.
And so this is what she had to say about Vietnam. Quote, I am undergoing a shock treatment here, she wrote. All those professional and personal ideals, which had never been shattered until I reached here, seem to be under constant bombardment. The things that happen in the country would be a bombshell to the American public. So that was her saying, like,
damn,
people have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah.
In 1964, when working for the New York Herald Tribune, Beverly was the first to break the story that North Vietnam had invaded South Vietnam, despite both the U.S. and North Vietnam's insistence that this was not happening. And it's stories like these that make me grateful for journalists, and particularly war journalists, that have integrity. The point of war journalism, as Taylor was kind of saying, despite the difficulty and confusion of war zones, is to just report the truth. The entire reason that these people, unarmed, approach the battlefield is to record and report the reality and the truth of the situation. Because, like what happened with the Vietnam War, our government could be lying to us. It was also Beverly who acquired insider information about the relationship between South Vietnam and America when she scored an exclusive interview with the Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyen Con. These interviews revealed a tense relationship between America and South Vietnam. The publishing of these interviews earned Beverly an invitation to the U.S. military press briefings, which she had not been previously invited to, because she was a woman.
Yeah, of course.
This invitation was an attempt by the U.S. military to sway Beverly to their side and convince her to publish less controversial stories. So it really was not like, oh, you did so well, welcome in. It really was like, oh, hey, maybe you should hear our side and perhaps you'll change your mind about what you're writing.
Yeah, stop
exactly
telling the truth. Damn, the only thing that gets fucking the American government to not be sexist is when someone tells the
fear
truth.
of, yeah, exactly. This never worked, and Beverly continued to write the unfiltered truth for the entire 7 years that she reported from Vietnam. She was one of the first reporters to share the stories of the quote-unquote death zones, as they had been called by Major Tran Van Minh. These death zones were areas in South Vietnam established by the U.S. military where anyone who entered these zones would be shot and killed on sight. Soldiers were instructed to assume that anyone who stepped foot in these zones were Viet Cong enemies. This led to the deaths of over 5,000 innocent Vietnamese civilians during the 6-month operation of just one of these death zones. So, yeah, basically it's like something that they would set up in the jungle and operate on the idea that, okay, anybody who steps foot, shoot them on sight.
Yeah.
Yeah. The U.S. government, when recording and reporting about these zones, referred to them as free fire zones to once again try to sanitize the reality of the brutality in Vietnam. Free fire zones, or better called death zones, are considered a war crime. It's definitely a war crime.
Super war crimey.
Yep. So Beverly was one of the first reporters to be like, hey, we're doing war crimes over here. This is bad.
Hey, y'all see this? Like,
yeah.
Fucking, yeah. U.S. government, this you? Like,
exactly. In the published interviews with the Prime Minister Nguyen Con, Beverly stated that the war was looking bleak and shared the Prime Minister's sentiments that the U.S. would lose the war to Vietnam. This didn't go over super well, obviously. This, of course, angered American officials and led to a Time magazine article describing her interviews with the Prime Minister as, quote, a singular achievement for a girl who has yet to be accepted as a regular in Saigon's Corps of Foreign Correspondents and who had been a Tribune correspondent for only 2 months. And that was before Beverly had been invited to join in on the U.S. press briefings. And it also just ignored the fact that Beverly had already been living and reporting in Vietnam as a freelance writer for 2 years. She just had, like, finally actually joined a specific station, you know. But anyway.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's so fucking wild. Yeah,
I know. And the fact that they're like, she's a little girl.
Yeah, well, it's just like, she hasn't even been to the thing that we didn't invite her to. So can you really trust her? Like, what the fuck do you mean?
And she was literally one of the only people to get interviews with this prime minister.
Yeah,
like this isn't just a little tiny achievement. She actually worked really fucking hard. So fuck you.
Be nice to her.
Beverly left Vietnam in 1968, holding the title for the longest-serving Western War correspondent in Vietnam. In 1969, she was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize, with the nomination letter reading, quote, "Most of Beverly Deep's readers presume she is a man, for her beat in Vietnam is rough, tough, and dangerous. Yet Miss Beverly Ann Deep, who hails from Little Carlton, Nebraska, has been reporting the war and political developments from Saigon and military outposts such as Khe Sanh for 7 years now. She holds her own with hosts of masculine correspondence and asks no favors."
Valid.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Hardcore.
Indeed. Many notable female journalists made their mark during the Vietnam War, and among the women photographing the war was Catherine Leroy. Catherine was born in Paris, France, and being ambitious from a young age, obtained her parachutist's license at the age of 18. This would later serve her career during the Vietnam War. So she just was a bad bitch already, out of the gate, 18 years old. She's like, I want to jump out of a plane, I think.
Shit's skydiving, crazy
Oh,
shit.
God. Once again, could never be me. I don't even want to fly on a plane knowing I'll land safely and I can, walk off the tarmac and not, jumping out of the plane.
It might be me. I don't know. It really depends. I'd try it once.
Yeah, I want to say that I would just because it does sound very awesome, but it's terrifying.
Better if I had the guy behind me, that was a trained skydiver.
Exactly. I would do it with a little guy strapped to my back.
Yeah, with
for
just
sure.
A strapped in friend.
Exactly. That they're like, everything's fine.
You're
doing great. Yeah. I would also do that, where you put on the squirrel suit and it's the giant fan.
Oh,
and you float around in a tube.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I think
really fun,
that feels safe and contained. And maybe I would do that first
easier.
And then
go indoor skydiving first.
That's exactly. Yeah. And then maybe try and pull a Catherine Leroy.
But Catherine Leroy, she went right to the top. She
really did.
Hucked it.
Yeah. Continuing her ambition into her 20s and having been inspired by the work of other war photojournalists, Catherine, at the age of 21, traveled to Saigon in 1966 to participate in the efforts to record the truth of the Vietnam War. And it was said that she only had $200 in her pocket to go do this. So literally, bitch.
Damn.
Crazy, doing crazy things. She's 21 years old. She has $200 and she's like, I'm gonna go to one of the worst war zones ever.
The crazy, one of the because with just how chemical warfare was, it's got to be one of the most dangerous places, war zones ever, in all of history.
I think so.
Yeah, damn.
I know. Catherine was known as one of the bravest photojournalists, as she would parachute into conflicts to capture the scenes. She was tiny, standing under 5 feet tall, and actually had to be weighed down during parachuting so she wouldn't blow away.
Jesus, wow.
She literally was so tiny. This tiny woman jumping out of a plane. Oh my God. Jumping out of a plane into an active war zone, taking photos, and she also had to have extra things so she wouldn't just fucking blow away. It's crazy.
Jesus.
It's crazy.
Phoebe, do you think she ever felt like a plastic bag?
Man, I think she probably did a lot. Yeah, I think she probably did a lot.
Ready to start again?
And so am I. And you know what? The words of the Shakespeare of our generation, Katy Perry.
I'd agree.
Yeah. What happened to Katy?
I don't know.
Is she
Katie
good?
Hudson? I feel like maybe she's just vibing,
Yeah.
I respect a celebrity that makes their millions
and then
fucks off,
quietly retreats.
Yeah,
That's what
just,
I would want to do.
Does their thing.
Yeah.
There's too many celebrities that are in the limelight and then aren't, and then they're like, I don't know,
do something
they
crazy.
feel like they have to be again, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know who else is in the limelight?
Fucking
These maybe advertisements, if there's anything in this space.
Yeah, have to figure that out because we're on a new platform.
Woohoo!
But goodbye, Anchor.
Yeah. I was gonna say good riddance, but maybe not.
I don't know. But
Anyway. Ads. Taylor, did you ever watch that show, The Weekenders? It was like an animated show.
Heard of it.
It's really, really funny. I mean, I haven't watched it since I was like probably 12, so maybe it's not as funny as I think it is, but
The Weekenders. Huh?
Yeah, it was like about this, like, I don't even know how old the kids were supposed to be, probably like 13 or something. It was like this little group of like kids that were friends, and it would like show like what they would do on the weekend, and they like lived in California or something.
That sounds lit. That sounds like a show.
It was really cute.
In the like late 2000s.
Yeah.
I remember there was this animated show on fucking Cartoon Network, I think, and it was called 16.
Oh,
but it was about 16.
Oh my God, yes, I loved that show.
Me too. I wanted to be the fucking skateboarding guy so bad.
Yes.
Like skating through the mall.
God, and I like felt very cool watching that show because I was like probably not too young to watch it, but it's like aimed at like 16-year-olds, and I would watch it as like a younger person. I was like, oh my God,
like,
this is edgy.
They talk about making out and stuff, and you're like, whoa. It was like that and like Total Drama Island.
Yes.
Where, like,
I loved.
They were kind of like the edgy cartoons for like older teenagers, and you were like, whoa.
Oh my God. I just remember there was the blonde girl on 16 who worked at the lemonade shop, and there was this episode about her accidentally squishing a guy's balls. And she was like, I squished his kiwis.
Yeah. I remember Total Drama Island was hilarious.
Oh, it's lit.
Watched that with us because she thought it was fucking hilarious. Like, I feel like that's how you know like a cartoon is fucking
if your parents,
good, if your
like
parents
it.
want to watch it. Yeah.
Isn't there a new season of that coming out? I feel like
16?
I saw that. No, of Total Drama Island.
Probably. There's like a ton of them now.
Yeah.
But I still think the like first the Island was the best one because there was like Total Drama Action.
That's
and, like, all
right.
these ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, fucking Gwen started everybody's love of goth girls.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. Mine too.
Yeah. All of us, really.
Yeah. Collectively. So Catherine Leroy, she's jumping out of planes. She's taking photos. She at one point had her press status taken away because she swore at a U.S. Marine who thought that she was too small to do the jumping out of the plane. And she was like, you're condescending. And I don't know if she said, fuck you, but I'm using my imagination here. Fuck you. And then they got mad at her and they took away her press briefing for a minute because they were like, you need to calm down. You need to chill, Catherine.
I feel like that guy deserved it.
He absolutely deserved it. She's been doing it. At the time of 18, she had jumped out of a plane like 84 times already. Crazy. Some of Catherine's most famous work is a series of 3 photographs of a U.S. Marine attempting to save the life of one of his colleagues. Did you want to pause?
Oh, we can just go.
It's up to you. Okay. Over the succession of 3 photos, you can see in the first, the man attempting chest compressions, then searching for the soldier's heartbeat, and then realizing in the last photograph that the soldier is dead. She was even kidnapped in 1968 by the North Vietnamese Army, along with another journalist. After explaining to the soldiers that they were journalists and meant no harm, the 2 were released. But Catherine convinced these soldiers to let her photograph them, telling them that only one side of the story was being told and that she wanted their story told as well. So this fucking woman gets kidnapped and she's like, hey, we're chill, don't murder us. Also, let me tell your side of the story.
Let me take a picture of you and do an interview.
Crazy.
Fucking insane.
Crazy. These photos ended up on the cover of Life magazine, and she also wrote a cover story about this and published it herself.
Crazy.
In Life magazine. Crazy. Catherine was one of the most awarded photojournalists of the Vietnam War, and she received the Picture of the Year from the George Polk Awards. Catherine continued her work for years after the Vietnam War, winning an award for her work in Lebanon as well. She photographed conflicts in Northern Ireland, Cyprus, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, and Libya until retiring from photojournalism in the early 1990s. I didn't include the story in here because there wasn't like a ton of information about it in the articles that I saw, but this is the woman who she in one of these battlefields, some shrapnel flew her way and she held her camera up and she was injured, but it saved her life.
Jesus.
Crazy.
And just fucking kept snapping photos. Like,
yeah,
that's so insane.
I know. And then I'm going to end with a quote from Catherine about what it was like photographing the Vietnam War. Quote, "When you look at war photographs, it's a silent moment of eternity. But for me, it is haunted by sound, a deafening sound. In Vietnam, most of the time, it was extremely boring, exhausting, and boring. You walked for miles through rice paddies or jungle, walking, crawling in the most unbearable circumstances, and nothing was happening. And then, suddenly, all hell would break loose." And that was from an article called A Window on the War from the Los Angeles Times from 2002.
Damn.
Yeah.
What a girl pussy boss queen bitch.
Literally
Sick.
all of the everything.
Yeah.
Literally boots, literally.
Houston.
Yeah. Like she was
mother.
She was doing it and doing it hard. Like she was in the battlefield getting fucking blown up, getting kidnapped.
Literally.
That's and still for years after leaving Vietnam went to like Northern Ireland, also one of the most like harrowing battlefields. Jesus. Fucking Afghanistan, Iraq, like crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy. Wow. That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Well, damn. That's my story.
That was fucking sick. Thank
you.
Yeah, wow. Hell yeah.
Thank you. Well, man, I also just wanted to say about the movie Civil War, which like obviously this is dramatized and
of course.
But it was just interesting because it did make me think a lot about like what it means to be a war journalist, and like I'm sure there are people like in this movie. I think I didn't love some of the characters because it's like they would get this like twinkle in their eye when they would see like gunshots happening and they're like, ooh, yay, people dying. But it did also make me think a lot about like how, you know, these people just have to kind of watch this thing happen and legally and like morally can't do anything about it. And you just kind of have to take that home. And it's like an interesting, difficult, muddy profession to be in, I'm sure.
I mean, I can only imagine. And I feel like it's interesting. The movie was interesting because it was like, I don't know, like it's one thing to like go to another place and have to report, but like to then have to do that same thing like here, like in your home, you know, like your home country. It's almost like, I don't know, like I feel like it would be even more difficult to detach yourself because like, you don't want your home to be destroyed.
Exactly.
I don't know. Yeah, like that seems crazy, but I definitely recommend. I'd recommend it.
It was interesting. It was a good watch. It's a lot. One of the weirdest things about it was that there was, because we went to like, I think like a 7:50 showing and there was a family behind us.
Yeah, there was a child.
With like there was like two, like, and they were probably like 7 years old-ish.
Yeah, it was like, I mean,
it's a brutal movie.
It's pretty, there's like blood. There's like the sound design. I mean, I guess props to the sound design because
truly,
it was very,
they did great.
The gunshot sounds and everything, it was like very jarring and like,
I mean, it was very realistic. Like the special effects and everything that they had were very realistic. And I also was like, I don't feel like the movie was very like all of the previews and everything, I feel like you kind of knew what you were going at. Like, you knew that it would be like a brutal war film. So I was just like, why is this family here? Like, what is this, like a nice evening for you guys?
Yeah, it was a little odd.
Are your children enjoying this? Are they okay?
Yeah. It also had fucking Todd from Breaking Bad in it.
Playing a weird fucked up guy, per usual.
That he just plays the best fucked up guy, like sadistic dude.
Yeah, I really am like kind of afraid of him.
Oh yeah,
in like real life too.
I wouldn't want to meet him in an alley or kind of at all.
Certainly not. Yeah, like great actor, I guess, because it works.
I mean, yeah, hope nothing but success for him.
Truly.
As long as he's not actually killing people.
As long as you just are a really, really good actor, then good for you, sir.
Good on. Yeah, he played it wasn't like, he wasn't really sadistic, but he was weird in it. But, you know, the fucking movie, I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Oh my God.
He's the dude in that movie.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That movie was weird.
I read the book.
I know you read the book. Yeah, I did not like the movie. I just kind of was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I watched the movie. I watched it with Eden, and Eden was like, "What the fuck was that?" And I had to like explain the ending because the book is just much more succinct and like makes sense. But the ending of the movie is like fucking weird.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
let's fucking plug it.
Plug it in.
Yeah.
Plug it in.
Well, you can follow us on twitter.com. It's at RemarksPod.
You can follow us on Instagram, which is at RemarksPodcast.
And then, give us a like on all the things.
Yeah, a little review, rate and review.
I love that.
Subscribe,
and then we'll see about Patreon and those things.
Yeah, we'll get that going again.
The time comes, you know.
Exactly.
Be on the lookout for stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful. Well, have a good day, night, whatever time of
whenever you're listening to this.
Yeah, whatever time of existing it is for you. And Kay, love you. Bye.